Good afternoon, Sutton Summit Realty, and welcome to our very first webinar of 2021. And I can't think of two better people to have with me than Lisa Patel, the president of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, and John Dimichele. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, and Happy New Year to all of you. So I want to get you guys excited. I know John gets annoyed, but here we're going to make some noise. We're going to get some engagement going. We're going to make this fun. Except for John's presentation, warning now, just kidding. It's going to be very informative, but you know, Happy New Year and happy TREB 100 years to all of you. So thank you for being part of that milestone. And we're going to continue to honor and recognize that milestone. And that's because of all of you. I've got a couple of highlights and updates that I do want to share with you. And the first being that just a kind reminder, as we are still in a pandemic and as COVID is continuing, that I ask you guys to take every safety precaution possible. Make sure that you're reading. We've got a dedicated site on Stratus that highlights everything related to COVID, including the health guidelines. So please make sure that you're following up with that. Just a kind reminder to everybody as well, if you've got listings, to make sure that you're limiting the number of people in on one time, and that the number of showings that are taking place, that they're not overlapping each other. So just a friendly reminder. We all want to do our best and make it as safe as possible for everybody involved. So on that note, that's the stuff that we want to get out of the way. Some bigger highlights. In 2020, TREB brought out actually 3 new task force. One being diversity and inclusion, the second one being women in real estate, and of course the last one was a subcommittee to the government relations. So we are working around the clock to not only better our industry, but also create change within the industry. So there's going to be more highlights and updates are coming as a lot of those committees are working through them right now. And David, of course, him and I had a lovely conversation, and I was talking about global aspects. So I wanted to give you some updates with regards to global. We recently in December announced a new partner relationship. So we have a couple of partners right now. We have Miami Association of Florida of Realtors, as well as we have Florida Association of Realtors. So there is going to be some more updates coming on from both of those associations, I believe in February and March. So stay tuned for that. But in December, we also launched a new partner, and that is we now are partners with France. And we are slowly but globally creating partnerships around the world. And of course, on my end, it would have been tomorrow, but unfortunately, not the world works the same way. So we're going to be working on some more that we have coming out, including one with South America. And what these are partnerships where we get to share information of what's happening. And we're actually, John and I have spoken about this, and we're actually hoping to take this to another level. Of course, it's going to take some more time. So I ask you to bear with us in that process. In the meantime, that's what I have as updates. David, did you want to ask any questions with regards to the global aspect?
Well, I think, you know, Canada is very fortunate to have the level of organized real estate that we all enjoy the fruits of its labors on a daily basis. And I think the world looks up to us and how we conduct ourselves and how we you know, how transparent, how we look at information and how we approach our MLS system. So to have that recognition on world scale is something that I am very proud of, and I wanted to commend you guys for all your hard work, and you know, I hope that the rest of the world can enjoy the same MLS system as we do here in Canada.
John, he's taking us to a whole new dimension. We're getting this. It's baby steps. But working through them. I think right now it's really about the partnerships and what type of material are we going to be sharing with one another. So even with France, I had sent them a message just to their president, just to kind of say, okay, you know what, now that we've come to a term of understanding, let's work on our next steps. What should we provide as value through your membership and our membership? So those conversations are happening, and it's just a matter of time before we start seeing what comes from them and what we decide to do with this in the future as well. And on that note, as we move into the whole real estate realm, congratulations, guys, to all of you. Incredible 2020, 95,151 sales. Wow. We had record-breaking months. It was, I will tell you, it was very exciting to watch it. And then, of course, that month, the one month that didn't hit the record, which was November, but that's okay. It was still a great month, but great year in a pandemic. So kudos to all of you, because you are all part of that process. And here we are, business planning, getting ready to invoke on another marketplace. And with that, I would like to now pass it over, because he's going to share some more insights with you in regards to the market about 2021. And I do want you to note on your calendars our market year review on February 8th. That's going to be an important day to look out for, or stay tuned in your inboxes. We are going to have the whole perspective of what we can see or expect to see for 2021. And with no further ado, I would like to introduce the CEO of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, John Dimichele.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, David. Thanks for having us, folks. It's really great to see everyone today. I hope you can all hear me. You know, I don't know if you know, but I do come from the field. I spent 12 years as a realtor. My background before that was in business and marketing. And I made a decision one day that I thought real estate would be a great place for me, a natural fit. I had a natural personal penchant, and I found that technology was a mystery to me. I took computer courses in university, and I remembered thinking to myself, okay, I never want to be a programmer, but I love the idea of the entire spectrum of how infrastructure worked and the magic of computing. So I learned a lot about it, and I guess all things being considered, when I was on the board of directors of the Toronto Real Estate Board, next thing I know, I was the CIO. Yeah, so in 2002, I became the CIO, and that the rest is history, I guess, is the way to say it. So thanks again. I'm going to just share my screen, if that's okay, and you guys can see the beginnings of, you have to enable me sharing the screen, David.
Yeah, you should be good, John.
Okay, great. So let me know if you can see it. Everybody can see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, terrific. So I want to acknowledge a couple things, that how important the Outlook report is, or the year in review in Outlook. It was something that germinated in my mind after reading a few, or actually being in a meeting and realized there's nothing like that out there. And I went back to the office that day and then had staff, particularly Vaughn and Jason, sit down with me, and I kind of gave them a mandate. That was June of 2015, and you know, after 10 minutes of me laying out the plan, I remember Jason looking at me and saying, "Okay, so when do you need this by?" I said September. This was June, and something started that day, and we came up with this, and now it's become one of the foundational documents that all levels of government wait for when they are about to do their financial planning and their year ahead, because real estate, as Lisa mentioned, is the cornerstone and the foundation of the economy today. We are the economic engine. Every level of government has said to me, to my face, eye to eye, that we are definitely one of the last remaining true economic engines. And we're proving it now again, or you are as members out there selling real estate and keeping the engine stoked and keeping our lives, at least for the moment, in a pretty good economic position as we go through this pandemic. So just to get started, I just want to the reason this is called the efficient marketplace is for a reason, because we are trying, we hear a lot of information about what real estate is and what it can be. And at TREB, we are spending a lot of time trying to move forward with this efficiencies, and we'll get to a lot of this information as we go through, so you understand what we see are the problems and how we're trying to solve them as best as we can as we move forward. So what is MLS? It's an understanding the bond with the consumer. A lot of people know that it is the dream of security and security of home ownership, which people try to attain. It's the Canadian dream. And it's recognized by C.D. Howe as the fourth pillar of wealth and retirement planning. The other things are specific, as you all know. You save, you have RSPs, and you have your investments, and you have the Canadian pension plan. So people rely on that, but really home ownership now, when you go to get a loan, the first question they ask is, do you own a home? And as long as you own a home, you're fine. But you also are doing other work in the community, which is really critical. A house isn't a home until someone moves in, and everybody knows there's a different feeling when you walk into a vacant home as opposed to when you walk into a house that's lived in. And as a realtor, this is incredibly visceral feeling. You actually feel that, and that's what's important, because it doesn't have life. Same as a community. You drive down a street that's really new. It's a different feeling altogether, and you create that quality of life. The benefit to the consumer, to benefit to people, is that element of quality of life that they know when they get into a home and things change for them. So what is MLS today? Well, it's an incredibly efficient, effective system. It's world renowned. We are the gold standard. We've had many people visit us across the world at TREB, not last year, unfortunately, and Lisa can go on about that, but normally we'd have at least 6 countries come and visit us. We've had
I like that you added that I could go on about it. I guess
yeah, you can.
Complaints from
John, just really quickly,
everybody.
Yeah.
John, just really quickly, what are these countries hoping to achieve when they visit TREB? What information are they looking for?
That's really, really good question, because they want to know how we do things at TREB. They see us, TREB, as the gold standard. And we've had visits from, India, Japan, which was an amazing visit, Dubai, France, and I can go on and on. We've had people come, Austria came twice, South America. They want to see how we do things. In many cases, it's about MLS. They realize it's not just a website. They don't have the structure that we have. And they see that we are efficient, we're transparent, and it's incredibly well organized. So they want to emulate what we have here. In many cases, they want to put money towards it, but it's a political football in many countries. But at the end of the day, it's all about what is the best system. And so even the Americans will come up and talk to us, and we are brethren, as you know. But we still can increase our efficiencies. We have two, in my opinion, this problem of overlapping market disorder where boards bump against each other costs a lot of money, and it's a problem. So people started talking about amalgamations, but no one has really amalgamated. What they're doing now is they want to retain their autonomy, which is fine, because I truly believe, and we truly believe at TREB, that all local associations must have a place, because they are the first contact outside of a brokerage and a realtor to the consumer. And they are like the overarching conveyors of information to like the municipal counselors and the other organizations that butt up against real estate. So we need to have local presence. So amalgamations really don't solve the real problem unless they really need it. but the real challenge that we're facing is with the data. Sorry. And again, what if the data gets fractured further? We've got platforms now that are creating these silos where they corral the consumer and they keep the information inside. So what happens as we go further fracturing data, and we end up with this decreased transparency to the consumer, where the consumer is now asking for more transparency. So we're saying, okay, we need to address this, but we can only address things with willing partners. So where are the opportunities? Well, one, marketplace, they retain local autonomy. We say it all the time. There should be less bureaucracy, not more. We can create better economies of scale for all the things that we do if it's one organization, and we can create this other seamless access to other related data that we have at TREB that most other places don't have. In fact, there is no one that has the other related data levels that we have at TREB. You know, things like RealNet and RealTracker and all those very, very good services that allow you to get, for instance, 2 weeks in advance of any announcement of a new development being opened up, the realtor gets that information first. Our members, TREB members, get that ahead of everyone else, and then you're able to inform your prospective buyers of new dwellings, because there's various types now, ahead of the market. So it's really good to have that. And of course, we want to be able to provide more choice to you and empower the broker and the member as to how you're going to consume the information. And when you work with TREB, and in our philosophy, you need real-time access to listing data. We want to be able to coordinate efforts on all related matters because we don't want to duplicate services and costs. It makes no sense. And it has to be future facing because the technology that we're using, we're going to get to that in a sec, is rather antiquated. And it has to be transparent to all members and to all consumers because that's the nature of where we are today. But what's a future facing MLS? Well, let's start with this. For years, some of you may remember that the highest level of technology we had was the tear sheets, where you would get these tear sheets daily. Can you imagine how many of these we were printing daily at the Toronto Real Estate Board? And the books. So this was the best technology we had. And then all of a sudden, it started to change. We had computers come in, and this is what the technology kind of looks like today. And it's the highest level that we've had for the last 20 years. For 20 years, it was paper. Now for the last 20 years, it's been this, and that's it. And why? Well, because it's a really, really good business model for those that produce this product. I just don't believe that having I know for a fact, in fact, and it's not just a belief, it's a fact, that the future of MLS technology is not just add, edit, and search. It can't be. It has to be more of what you see when you work within Collaborate. I don't know if you folks are using Collaborate, but it's important that you try it because that is the future. That relationship with the consumer has to be symbiotic. They have to be able to feel like they're part of it. And we all know that, especially the newer generations. So what do we expect from the consumer, and how are we taking this information? Why are we even looking for it? Because we want to be able to customize and maintain our members at the forefront of delivering the information. So the consumer wants to be more connected, empowered, and demanding. They certainly are, that's for sure. They want more choice, and they need this transparency. It has to be personalized, has to be effortless. So they want simplicity, but they want to be able to solve very complex problems with their fingertips. It has to be data driven. I mean, there's an old adage, you can't manage something that you can't measure. And Lisa will tell you that my mantra is evidence-based decision-making, right, Lisa? And it's something that I highlight repeatedly. How can we manage something we really can't measure, that we're not measuring, that we don't know? So we don't want to guess anymore. And it has to be something that we trust the privacy and security of the consumer's data, as well as your data as we go through this, because the privacy is becoming a very serious topic, and our government is looking at changing it now. Strengthening privacy laws. So the consumer of the future, more connected, empowered, privacy laws are really important. If you look at GDPR and you're working with someone from Europe, which it falls under the GDPR, you have to understand that you are now bound by those laws with respect to privacy, and you have to respect them because their laws are draconian in nature as compared to ours. And of course, California passed their law, the CCPA, which is a very, very stringent privacy law. And now the Canadian privacy bill is being revamped, and we're in touch with the commissioner on that as well. So what else does the consumer want of the future? So convenience. Right now, you can buy a car, they'll deliver it to your house. You can order anything on Amazon or online, and they'll deliver it to you the same day. You can get food now. It's become a huge industry. In fact, one of the concerns I heard the other day was that consumers are overspending on food to the tune of significant dollars because they're getting everything delivered. And I'm talking about prepared food, let alone, just a supermarket type of foods. Choice. They want choice. They want lower prices so that the dollar goes further. And that's what is intended for the whole concept of being online. Better, faster, cheaper. That's the mantra of online and the consumer. When people talk about what is the disruptor? Well, there's only one real disruptor, and that's the consumer. You can't say this company is a disruptor and that company is the disruptor. The consumer chooses, and that's who the disruptor really is. So if we look at the millennials, and again, bear in mind that we're looking at this because we're building a future-facing MLS, and we're very close. I was kind of hoping that I would be able to make some announcements today, but we haven't got pen to paper. So once that's finalized, you'll be hearing some of our exciting announcements. But millennials make up 20% of the population. We know there's going to be a massive transfer of wealth. They've been predicting it for quite some time. It's in the significant billions of dollars. And it'll take some time to get through it all, but that's why we're seeing potentially right now some of the activity that we're seeing in the buying market, because you've got people who have dollars now because of the transfer of wealth, plus the low interest rates. It makes it very easy for people to get in the marketplace, even though the price points appear to be very high. But we're seeing that now. They want space that makes life easier. Money is definitely an issue for millennials, and that's why we're seeing this rent versus buy dilemma. But rent is not the issue anymore. It's more about buy and let's get into the market. Travel is an important priority for millennials, and married and children later. So now all those things together have to form some of the concepts when we're building an MLS. How important is travel, and how connected do you need to be? So those are the types of things that we're considering. Look at Gen X, all the features and functions of a smaller space, comfort and flexibility, but some have to care for children and parents. And now we're seeing this concept of homes that will be able to be sorted century homes, the way that we used to see generational type homes where many generations were living in one home. The homes would have to be bigger. So some of those concepts are creeping in, and we're seeing that even in neighborhoods out here in Oakville. Boomers, they're working longer, second careers, but what's their mantra? They want to be independent as long as possible. And we're actually seeing people build product, come up with product that actually looks at that last particular line, want to be independent as long as possible. And they're technology based, and it's amazing to see some of these products. And I'm sure you're going to see them because they're being built as we speak in the core today. But also look at the age. Most places, the average age is about 54. At TREB, we're substantially below that number, with new members averaging about 48, and the new member average age is 34. Those are significant things to consider. So we need to be able to create technology that allows them to be connected with people, and because that's what these new folks do. You guys are all connecting. You're tech savvy, but you want to be connected. There's this concept of shared experiences. Now, I have to always say to people, be careful you don't take advice from someone who really perhaps might be feeding you erroneous information. I see that on Facebook all the time, and I want to chime in, but it's not my place. Always go to your broker. Your broker always knows best. So shared experiences means the shared experiences with the consumer. That's really important. We're seeing teams in huge numbers, exploding actually. We have to be adaptive to what's happening around us. And an MLS, the realtor also has to be prepared to be adaptive with their own technology. And we all know that it's a very competitive environment. But we're also seeing this concept that members, and we know that this is going to stick after COVID-19, the whole concept of showings and open houses, people are really embracing that concept. And we believe that we have to build more of these type of facilities so people can actually use technology. Because right now you might have, 10 real people through your open house, but on a virtual open house, you might have 200-300. So that's a really important thing for us to pay attention to. Also, different ownership models. We're changing the system right now. There are motions going to MLS or ideas going to MLS, and hopefully there'll be motions to the board that will look at the share economy and how different ownership models actually will appear over the next little while. The rent versus buy dilemma, and how do we serve that? So renting is becoming a huge component of people's business. So we have to shore up and enhance the rental environment as well. Smart, smaller, comfortable, convenient, diverse. These are all qualities that people have told us that they're looking for in homes. So how are we changing the system to be able to at least get people to understand and be able to search for these types of things that they want, or at least see the properties that they're looking forward to purchasing at some point. Sustainable. In other words, socially conscious, green. This is something that people want. And we know that this has to become a data point, a significant data point for you to be able to communicate with to consumers. Again, multi-generational concept. People are staying at home much longer. The children, parents are moving in, and the concept of accessibility. So what does the system really have to accommodate? Well, all of these things at some point in time in order for you to be able to do your job effectively. And this is something that's very, very serious. The federal government announced that 400,000 new Canadians into the country every year for the next 5 years. Where are we going to put these people? We need to build right now, the unofficial number is 300,000 come into the Greater Golden Horseshoe every year. Right now, I think they've let in under 10,000.
John, give them your famous expectation of what they can see, what that looks like.
Well, let's you go ahead. You want to add?
No, it's your analogy. You do it.
Yeah, no. I think. Let me just say it this way. So for every 100,000 people, we need 35,000 new homes built every year. If we're letting in 105,000 or 300,000 people, we need 105,000 new homes. How many are we actually building? Less than 40. In fact, one year, I think we were at 17. So this is the problem. What do you think is going to happen to house prices when we let in 400,000 new Canadians every year? Because migration and immigration lands us in that world here. They all migrate to the GTA or the Greater Golden Horseshoe now. So we're seeing this in spades. So how are we preparing for that? And can you imagine with all the building that's going on in the West End and in the East End and the North, what roads are we driving on? Because right now it's crazy. What do we think the traffic's going to be like, and how's that going to affect people? And how are we going to attract people into the city to be employees, the smart folks, if they can't afford to live there? They can't drive. So you drive till you qualify. How far are you going to drive in? Now, those are challenges, but the MLS has to be able to provide that environment, and it has to be further reaching. So we also know that we've got these end-to-end platforms where clients are capture, controlled, and retention. They also capture the data, but they are doing it because they need to measure performance. They need to prove return on investment. And that's why we're seeing Wall Street and the venture capitalists come into the industry, because they see real estate as huge opportunity a lot of money. Just like when people enter the country, they come here, they buy a job by getting to real estate. And that's something that we know is happening, but that just strengthens the ability for us to serve. The challenge we're facing is what we talked about before, the fact that the marketplace is sort of divided and you're not getting that transparency that we all need. But let's just talk about the money and give you a sense of how important real estate really is. So if we looked at the idea that we're going to shut down the internet, this would be the costs of shutting it down for an hour. So you can see that China would definitely be affected on an hourly rate. The US next to that, the UK, then we have Japan, Germany, India, France, South Korea, and then Canada is in the 9th position. So we would still be impacted significantly. These are in the millions, okay? So you have to think about really what the challenges would be. If we add it all, and what would be the cost of operating the internet? Maybe $100 to $200 billion a year. How do you replace it? What if it was shut down? Then, annually in North America, we'd be impacted about $565 billion. People would adjust, it would take time, but still the impact is huge. And it would impact the GDP of most powerful economic countries on the planet. It would be a blow. But if we look at it, and I put it all together myself, and I did a lot of detail on it, but now let's look at it. So this does not include exclusive or new home sales. This is just what's on MLS. And I took it from NAR in Korea. And I used a very conservative median price of $250,000. So 5.4 million existing homes were sold in 2018. And the median price approximately $250,000. As you can imagine, that number has been growing steadily. So what would the impact be? So the impact is $1.8 to $2 trillion plus. In Ontario, we have a valuation of $2.3 trillion in properties in Ontario. So if we look at the spin-off dollars, $68,000 per transaction, this is from Korean Altus, we know that this would not just impact local economies, but definitely the GDP of the country. And that's why Wall Street and the policymakers are all interested in what's going on, because it affects the economy. So now when you think about 2008, you'll understand why that meltdown had such an impact, because the US is approximately $20 trillion, and it represents 25% of the world economy. So when 2008 happened, it affected the world. What was it based in? Real estate. How important is it? What you guys do? Very. And if you think about it, the mortgage market, 7 times bigger. So this is a very, very serious part of all economies, and why MLS is so important, why people are always looking in. So what you guys do, incredibly important. So what is the next big aspect of data? Well, the data object, and the data object, that's you. So as we know this, we know that AI and big data form the basis of AI, and they're actually creating computers now that emulate brain cells and brain structure. So we're seeing that happen, and AI, in my opinion, is going to be the death of search. In the future, you're not going to have to, and I'm going to say in the immediate future, you're not going to have to set up your searches. You may set them up, but you may set them up with voice. And you may set it up based on several different characteristics, not necessarily just the data, because as a realtor, I remember things like this. My client would say, I want a 2-bedroom, 2-car garage on a huge lot backing onto a green space. And then I'd show them 20, and then in the end, they'd buy a bungalow with 1-car garage and 2 bedrooms, because that's what they wanted, right? That's what they loved. And it's an emotional aspect, but big data is going to help us all understand why, and we'll be able to create those avenues of information for you to better serve the consumer. But they definitely want to be part of the process. But our job is to empower the broker and the member. And also, our job is to protect the data of you the member, because your behavior is important to those who want that data, and the consumer. And that's why we're looking at blockchain. Blockchain is definitely going to be a way of the future. It will do things like eliminate wire fraud. I know that's really permeating our world today. We've had many complaints on it. People are losing money. In the United States, it's a $30 billion industry, and it's creeping into Canada now because it's just a lot of money. So be aware of that. And what I would suggest to you, if anybody sends you an email for a wire, call them, make sure it's the right person that you're sending the wire to. Do not just rely on the email. And I would tell everybody about that, because people automatically just reply to the email and do the wire transfer, and lawyers do that too. So instruct your lawyers that they do nothing without your instruction, et cetera, et cetera. A blockchain will actually eliminate that, because you have to have certain credentials in order to do those types of things. So quickly to the marketplace, that's the background to give you a sense of where we're headed. But this is what's really happening in the marketplace now. So this is our marketplace. This is a very famous photo. I've shown it everywhere, and people refer to it, oh, well, it's the photo. And it's true. Everything that's hot, that's lit, is our marketplace. This is the most powerful economic sector in real estate in Canada, at the very least. And we know that everybody's paying attention. As we said earlier, a lot of people want to know how we do things here. They also want to know if countries want to know if they should be investing here. So that's a really interesting dynamic that we're involved with. But so these are the number of for sale listings that are on our site at TREBB.ca or OntarioListings.ca. And these are all TREB listings that are in our database. So right now, at this time, there's about 28,955 listings for sale. And then for Lisa, 22,325. And you can see that it's spread out all over the province. So when people talk about provincial MLS, well, this is pretty much in the makings of a provincial MLS. And if we look at those two sets of listings combined, including all three types of listing class, we have 51,280 total listings on the system. That is a significant number. And you can see that when we start to drill down, this is Hamilton. So our members are taking these listings, and this is a significant thing to understand. In many cases, and I'll show you more numbers, you folks are taking more listings in the areas than they are. And if we look at Oakville and keep moving down the road, this is also the peninsula. We can go up to various other parts of Ontario, in Port Perry, etc. It's not like we aren't there. This is London, this is Kitchener-Waterloo, and it's become very evident to us that our members are mobile. And the new concept that I've heard repeatedly is that real estate is not local. What's important is the relationship between the consumer and their realtor, just like they are loyal to their doctor, their lawyer, their accountant. They are loyal to their realtors, and they want to work with someone they trust. It's that plain and simple. So this is now a Venn diagram that Hamilton asked us to put together for them. And what you see at this snapshot in time is that we had 2,013 listings on our system that Hamilton agents didn't see. We shared, and the reason that number is 850, 860 was because of timing. We couldn't get an exact time by the time they sent us out their data, and we looked at ours. So we estimated between 850 to 860 listings that we both saw on both systems. And then they saw 1,775 listings. And remember, this is just in their area that we didn't see. They were missing 2,013. So more than 50% of the listings their members were not seeing in their own market. So I contacted some of our guys and I asked, well, why are you not interboarding to that marketplace? And this is now common response to all the marketplaces that I've talked to people on. And they said, well, we really don't have to. We have enough data here combined with working with other realtors in those areas that we can be as effective. And we know the market because we work there. Some of them also have memberships in those areas or have subscription. And so they feel comfortable doing business in that area. And you can see, though, that the people who aren't getting the benefit are the local realtors. So the more we see this, and this is something we also looked at, when we looked at how many listings were there again, and we compare it to what they've actually sent up to TREB, it was interesting to see that there's so many duplicate listings that we're seeing on TREB, which is just wrong, because they're being listed in 2 or 3 boards and everybody sends the data up to TREB. So when you click on a listing, it's there 3 times. It makes no sense. And ultimately, only 170 interboarded listings from members came into TREB. So you can see that this is a problem, but the problem is really for you, the realtor, and especially the realtors there in the Hamilton area. Now we looked at Oakville, and we looked at Oakville carefully over the years because once they brought it to our attention, we didn't realize how bad it was till they brought it to our attention. And they came to us and said, look, we want to be partner boards, and we're still in discussions. Things got a little funny for a while, but we decided to do this a data swap, which is something we don't do because there's a lot of problems with it. And so these were the numbers over time at how many sales occurred on our system versus the sales that occurred on their system. And you can see the numbers started to creep up significantly over time, to the point where now, during this data swap, we're seeing that how many active listings are being exchanged between our 2 boards. We're sharing 550. They're only giving us 134 listings, and we're giving them 1,500 listings. So obviously that's a problem. We knew that going in, but the real problems lie in different aspects, which is the inefficiencies. And even though this appears to be a good thing, the swap, it's not. It's causing us more problems, and we'll get to that in a sec. But when we look at this overlapping market disorder, I actually did a study last year, and I had Barry, which is a great partner board, not a partner board, but we have a great relationship with them. Over 50% of their members are actually TREB members as well. And Brampton, which has been a partner board like Durham for, I guess, since 2002. And of course, our system. So we have, overall, we have 3,405 dual members, 204 dual offices, 123 dual brokerages, 136 subscriber members, and we manage between us 11,292 interboards. What is the cost of this? To that small group of people, it's an extra $3 million a year. Once again, this makes no sense. This is like a ridiculous amount of money to pay for something that can be solved to create better efficiencies. And that's what we're hoping for. But it appears that it's going to take some time because for whatever reasons, and we'll get to some of it in a sec. The other thing of interboards is a problem is this. Too many interboards go unreported. They use it, they bring it, they interboard a TREB, they put it on there till they sell the property, but they never report it being sold, leased, terminated, nothing. It just expires. If you look at what happens on our system, only 8.5% of the listings expire. When we look at interboards, 4 times as much. This, again, is a problem. It's a problem for you because it creates a dirty database, and it's not a solution. So what are the challenges with this exchange? Well, it's costly. It costs us a lot of money to maintain that exchange, let alone the costs to people who are paying for those other memberships. You can't fit square pegs in the round holes, so the databases are actually inaccurate. Plus, there's a challenge with data distribution. They don't have the same protection of the data that we have. In fact, our listings are being downloaded in Oakville because they have the ability to download the listings at $5,000 a pop. That makes absolutely, we're spending millions of dollars protecting it under legal matters, the data theft, and yet people don't care about it. We have different MLS rules and professional standards rules, different standards on how you protect the data. There are the technical points of failure. Not all the listings appear in time. There are time lags, other inaccuracies. But the problem with MLS rules and professional standards is there's many things that are not mandatory there that we take you guys to professional standards for. And so now we have that 2 levels of rules, and we can't have that. We told them this going out. They told us they wanted to be partner boards. we said, fine, we'll do this as a stopgap measure, and hopefully we can move forward from our differences and move on. And then you have different market trends and reports. Now, once we pull our data exchange, their reports are going to change significantly. And for us, it won't matter, but for them, it will. And I think that that's the problem. When you do data exchanges, you actually create more problems because you're actually counting the sale twice. It makes no sense. And this thing about competition, people are out there right now. You can see what we have. Now, this is some data, and Lisa already mentioned the 95,151. So we know that it was the third highest amount of sales in the GTA in history. And rightfully so. Imagine during pandemic, this. So how do you explain it? Well, we're working on it. But you can bet that there's a lot of indicators that are telling us now why this could be happening. And it's a good thing, thank goodness. So we know that those are our transactions that we report through MarketWatch, which is only GTA that creates that time series. But I asked Jason to provide this for us. And this is something that you need to really look at. Let's go back to the other slide and look at history. So if we look at history, 2018 was the second worst time in our history in terms of sales. But when we look at it from the greater Golden Horseshoe, or in the entire database that you guys are working in across all classes, well, now it was really one of the best top, well, I guess 6 now in history, because you guys are working outside of our borders more. So which one should we be paying attention to? Our membership is growing. We're working outside. So now we looked at another measure. We started looking at how many transactions, listings alone, mind you, just because we can only track listings. If we look over time, the blue here is the transactions that our members are doing outside of our trading area, our jurisdiction, let's call it the GTA. So if we look at this, and if this is actually the trend, and you can see it starts to creep up, and now we're in record historic levels. Our guys are doing almost 25% of the activity outside of, over 20% of the activity outside of the GTA. It's starting to increase to the point where we're taking serious notice of this. We have to, and so should everybody else. So when people talk about TREB members working outside of our, let's say, artificial borders, well, there aren't artificial borders. And as I said earlier, consumers want their realtor to work with them. So just to get the slate clean, so you guys understand, it's not an option for TREB or anybody or any association to tell a licensed member where they can and cannot trade. You're all licensed for Ontario. And we hear this all the time and see it on social media. Well, someone should tell TREB members not to sell anywhere else. Well, it's illegal. It's not an option or illegal to prevent or impede that. And we now are hearing stories of people trying to do that for this protectionist attitude. The competition law requires every member to act in accordance with the competition law requirements. So let me go back to this one for a sec. You know what that means? That means if you hear someone speaking any first of all, you can't act that way. And if you hear somebody talking about that, you have to tell them that they have to stop talking about it. And if they continue to talk, you say, okay, and I'm leaving now. I'm going to let you guys continue. I don't think you should. In fact, you should stop because the law requires you also to report that. And now you get dragged into something you don't want to be dragged into. You have to protect and promote the interests of your client, including but not limited to showing all properties that may be of interest to them. So now you have an obligation under RICO that if they want to see a property in Timbuktu, you have no choice. And dealing with non-member boards and allowing a competitor to work on a transaction for any listing. Those are all under the code of ethics of RICO. So members have to be acting in accordance to RICO. So what are the opportunities? Well, we can increase the efficiencies. We can increase the transparency for members and their clients. We provide an avenue for local board autonomy. It drives down costs significantly. less bureaucracy, more services, economies of scale. So real-time access to data rather than having to go to separate interfaces. Well, that's something that we're working on at TREB. When our next MLS user interface, when you start using it, the new one, which we're hopefully going to finalize in the next little while, there's no need to be able to go to different interfaces to get the information for you to do your job on a daily basis. So that's coming. But when we're talking about two different associations that butt up against each other, it makes no sense. And again, this concept of square pegs into round holes. We need to reduce duplication and service costs. We need to have that transparency to all members and consumers. We need to coordinate all our efforts on these related matters. It has to be future facing. And that's why we've got this RFP working there today. These are the services that you guys enjoy from an MLS perspective, but we offer over 100 different services, but these are the ones that count. So as you know, and I'm just trying to dispel some of the misinformation out there. Yes, our members have 2,000 reports and impact property line. You have unlimited authenticized digital signatures. Collaborate is something that everybody is replicating and trying to recreate. You have access to the HPI, in which TREB actually is an ownership partner. We have robust commercial tool set and databases for all our commercial guys. And we also have RealNet, residential for sale, and commercial solds, and choice of Stratus or Matrix. And hopefully we're going to be expanding on those choices in the coming soon days. So remember, what we're trying to communicate to people is, look, be a partner board. You retain your autonomy. You retain the ownership of your data. In fact, if a board is a partner and they want to leave, we give them their database back and they get to start anew if they weren't happy. You work with the entire database of all our partners. It creates transparency to the clients, better data, better local market reports, less bureaucracy, not more of it, so lower costs. We allow our partner boards to be and vote at the MLS committee. They have 2 representatives and they get 1 vote. And of course, this concept of increased services. So that gives you a snapshot. I'm happy to take a lot of questions.
I want to tell them quickly, our partner boards, Brampton, Northumberland, Brampton, and Durham. Yeah. Our current partner boards.
That's correct. And York is not a partner board, but York, when they folded, we did not take over York. We actually protected it just in case somewhere down the road, York actually created another association. And we did the exact same thing with Orangeville. When Orangeville folded, we did not take it over. What we did was we protected made them actually a associate organization and protected just in case someday Orangeville wants to recreate their association and get their charter back. So we are bigger than what we say, but that's why we're regional, and we've been regional since 2002. So we just don't go out there telling everybody that. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, the first question we have from Abu Sakar. I'll just read the question for everybody. So Abu's asking, do we have access to this big data that you were talking about in a structured format through an API in one place that machine learning algorithms or models can be run to derive insights from all the listings and the buy-sell data? Yes. What's the best way to get access to the data in one place?
That's a great question. That's what we're going to be building to at some point in time. It's really early in the go for us. That's what we're in the process of actually developing contracts, and we've gone through the RFP process. We are now finalizing our partners. That's something that we hope to provide that corralled environment for people to go in and do this and create their own algorithms if they're so inclined. But that'll take steps for us to be able to do that. First of all, we do have a data warehouse today, but we have to structure it in a way that it's actually accessible and that you can actually query.
So,
John, sorry, I just want to add to that because we do have that special task force that you're part of, that have been working away, right? And there's a couple of different stages to the whole tech aspect, right? I mean, the news that we were hoping to share with everybody, that's part of the stages that are to come between, would you say it's a rollout between 2021 and 2022, or even longer than that?
I think we'll start seeing, it depends. Again, I don't want to really get too excited until I've got the contracts finalized, but I think we'll start hopefully in the next couple of weeks have a better idea. But I would say definitely if we work with the folks that we're dealing with now, we'll start to see some evidence or some deployments towards the end of this year. And then the end of it will be about 12 months out, 12 to 18 months out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, John, Marcin here. I'm the VP of marketing here at Sutton Summit. I have a question regarding IDX. So with websites like Zulu allowing users viewing of historical data of sold properties, will you be allowing viewing of historical data publicly to your IDX partners, as you're currently limiting what's being shown? We're actually working with 2 IDX partners, and we're finding a huge difference between what one is showing versus the other. So I wanted to get your insight and input on that.
Well, I'd like to see evidence of that. If you want to provide that with me, we'd like to see exactly what it is that you're referring to. We know that some of them do not actually. We've gone and talked to many that were perhaps a little bit lenient with the rules. My understanding is that I'd like to see it. If you wouldn't mind sending me some of the information to the websites, we'll have a look at them.
All right, most definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So John, I'll put you guys in touch.
Sure.
And I guess Laura had a very similar question. She's asking if you're aware of Sigma and that her clients refer to Sigma all the time and get all the information on the old solds.
Yeah, that's the vows. So if they're doing something wrong, then we will definitely deal with them. But all virtual office websites actually have historical data. But we are reviewing, and we've got a regime now, making sure everybody's adhering to the rules. If I may, unless it gets asked, maybe I should mention this. One of the questions we keep getting asked about is Connect. So TREB actually led the charge. In fact, I invented it. It was my architecture. And we were charging 36 cents per member per year for Connect. Okay. Very incredibly elegant, efficient system. And then when what happened with Connect was when the collective came to be, which is the 14 boards, once they lost Logics, they all opted out of Connect. So we went from 22 boards that were actually participating in Connect, and that erosion continued with other boards from Ortis. The long story is we went from, I think, 28 in total down to 4. And so the problem with that was TREB foots the bill once again, and we cannot protect the data in the same way. In fact, two of the four associations that were staying with it, unfortunately had members that kept scraping data. So it made no sense to continue with Connect. It wasn't serving anybody. TREB was footing the bill. And what they were saying was they still wanted our members, even the participating guys weren't refreshing their data. It was old data, so members still had to become subscribers. So while the narrative out there is that TREB shut down Connect, the fact is they did. And secondly, some of them still owe us money. So, it's silly, but it's true. And I don't want to say that, I don't want to underscore how important competition piece that I just said is. People are not happy and are voicing that they don't want TREB members trading in their area. If anybody ever says that, this is something that we will address directly with the Competition Bureau.
Fair enough. John, let me ask you this question. What are your predictions for 2021?
Well, that's a really good question. Right now, we know that interest rates are not going to increase. They've made that commitment. So in my opinion, and I'm sure you guys would say the same thing, the money's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So if there is an ability for people to come up with a down payment, and in a lot of cases, they're getting help, right? Younger people are getting help, which is good. I don't foresee a slowdown unless something pretty dramatic happens. I think we've heard some great announcements with respect to the East End. General Motors is going to turn the line on again. Well, that's a pretty clear signal. We know that the Pickering Airport's going to happen. We know that about 70,000 homes are being slated to be built in the East.
And then you also have the 2 Amazon warehouses, one being in Hamilton and then the other one being in Ajax too. So there's still there, and then there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies that are expected to come to the GTA as well in the coming years.
Well, and that's the commitment from this government to bring manufacturing back. That's a big, big thing. If we look at, if we just simply play the game with me for a sec, the rental market is soft. So is the condo market. Well, what happens when the international students come back? What happens to the condos in Toronto? What happens when we start to see immigration? What happens?
What's going to happen when all the people that moved outside of the cities experience their first winter in the country?
Yeah,
right.
That's a very important point, David.
And people are not talking about this enough, right? But we have 190 realtors. One of our realtors has a 100-acre property near Tobermory, and he sent me a picture a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that they're getting a foot of snow every day. Right? These are just realities that, people in the GTA are not aware of. So while everybody's encouraging people to work from home, and people are buying cottage properties, people are buying our land, people are buying these country properties out there, they're going to be in for a rude awakening of what the weather out there is like.
Well, it's not just the weather. One of the things that I keep telling people who have moved out there, I mean this sincerely, I'll say, look, you're going to have to figure out a way to keep busy, because now you're used to taking the elevator down, going outside into this incredibly busy metropolis, going to any store that you want. Heck, if you want to go see a live show, you're minutes away. And now when you're out, and I'm not going to say a specific area, but let's just say, when you're out in the country, you're going to be very limited as to, so you better have a lot of things like cable, satellite, you name it. You need to be entertained. Some people will adjust to that, and that's great. Some people are going to find it very difficult. So,
John, that's why we have the Netflix head office that's moved to Toronto as well, isn't it?
That's right.
I think this also mentioned this in our market review, is that lifestyle will always play an important factor. And the condo market has found its way back, and we'll continue to see more with it as prices soar. People will still always choose lifestyle once transit and everything else is back up and running again. But John, you have your famous analogy. I've been sitting here waiting and waiting.
Go ahead, just do it.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're, the one that you would talk about of how busy realtors are going to be in 2021.
Oh, I like this. This I want to hear.
Okay, Lisa. Really, you want me to say that?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. So here's what I think is going to happen. Once we reach herd immunity, probably before. So we're all saying September, October, herd immunity, right? It's going to be like a Mentos candy in a Pepsi bottle, it's going to go crazy. Every restaurant will be packed. Every show will be packed. Imagine sitting in a concert hall. Imagine going to a live hockey game or basketball game. You think it's going to be easy to get tickets? No, because people are actually saving money. Believe it or not, except for the people that are using Uber Eats for every meal. But if you look at it, it's going, and once you open up the immigration, what are we going to do? It's going to be feverish. I hope the government understands that we need supply. If we don't have supply, it's going, you think the prices are high now? I'm going to use Benjamin Tall's line. Wait. You think that people aren't going to want to, do you want to rent or do you want to own? I don't care what your choice is. Both of them are going to be stressful. I'm sorry. Sabiha, I think you had another comment?
I wanted to quickly ask, because this is what I'm asked by all my realtors, and I'm not sure whether John or Lisa, you can answer, who'd answer this, but we're obviously seeing Matrix up there. We've all been very used to Stratus. I'm guilty of that. I've watched some of the webinars. I know that we have a choice right now, and there'll be a further choice where you actually have to select one of them. Do you think Stratus is going to get taken off at some point? How important is it for us to learn and get comfortable with Matrix?
You don't. It's a choice. You can choose whatever you want. And that's what we want people to understand, is that you don't have to choose any Matrix. This is just an opportunity for people who were complaining about Stratus. We said, fine, we are going to foster choice. I think down the road, though, you know, maybe David wants to white label MLS so that he can consolidate you guys into one interface, so that it doesn't matter. You only go to Sutton Summit Real Estate Dashboard. That's it. Everything's there for you. And I think that that's where we're driving to in the future. And it could be something that you create, or you just white label whatever we present, but it gives you all the features that you need to do your business. In terms of Stratus, it'll probably be a legacy system for some time. The Stratus that you're used to and you know and love and work with every day. We will be providing others more, let's say, better. I'm going to say better because I said it right from the beginning. The current MLS interfaces, in my opinion, are all old, and they all do the same thing. They just do it differently. But what we're going to present to you in the coming months is going to be something that will be way beyond that. And then we'll constantly improve it. So you can use the actual technologies that exist today, but there will always be the other ones in the background.
Right. And one of our realtors has asked for this, and what I've been advising people is to go to realtor.ca. What do we do when Connect is not there anymore? Is there any advice from you where we can substitute Connect to something else?
Well, what we're doing with this now is trying to work out some sort of a system where a member who is working outside of our area that needs concentrated data for, let's say Kitchener. We're working this out right now, and I haven't had a chance to talk to them since before Christmas, but we want to come up with a solution that will allow you to do that. Probably it will cost something, but not a lot, because we have to get rid of the idea that things have to be free. The only way that it's free is if it was included in the membership fees. And of course, nothing is free, as you know. So what we want to do is create a system that you don't have to be a member for the full year. You don't have to pay an extraordinary amount of money, but you can still do business in the short term and get the information that you need. And I think that's the key here, is to come up with something people want and respect, that's incredibly secure, that does all the things we need it to do, and still empower the realtor. And that's our goal, and hopefully the other side agrees.
Because listing is easy, right? We can do interboard listings. It's the search element that we're missing with Connect.
Yes.
Yeah.
John, thanks for giving the analogy. Now, you also talked about in your presentation is collaborate. So I guess I'm going to throw this out to all of you. How many of you are using Collaborate? Is anyone using Collaborate?
Yes, yes, yes. Quite a few of us are. Yes.
Okay, good. And how do you find that system? I mean, knowing that there's going to be more technology upgrades and similar to that platform, how do you find it?
And it's great. It's real time. There's a lot of benefits to it, right?
And guys, you know what? One other thing I want to open up to you is always feel free to share your feedback. We love hearing from you. So if there's something that is going on in your world, we want to help to make it improve things. So, you know, John, myself, we're always open to hearing from you, or even including David.
Lisa, is there, because Collaborate is also fairly new, is there actually, I know there's some recorded videos which I've watched on Collaborate. Is there actually a live session that we can do with someone at TREB for our brokerage as a webinar?
Can we can put we can ask professional development if that's something
that would be amazing. Yeah, maybe I can throw out an email to you and kind of figure out a date where we can organize a session just on Collaborate.
Writing it down, so we're on it.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
Thank you for that feedback too.
Is there anything else, David?
John, I loved your analogy of the mental toast in.
See, and you got all shy.
I actually pictured it as soon as he said it. I'm like, I pictured that analogy in motion. So, you know, a lot of great knowledge, a lot of great information. I think you guys reaffirmed what a lot of us have been really feeling and experiencing in the marketplace. I'm really looking forward to the report, the market outlook report coming out on February the 8th, and seeing what the numbers and what the predictions are going to look like. And I think 2021 is going to be a great year for real estate. John, I'm curious, what are your thoughts about the number of transactions for 2021? Do you think it's going to go up from 95,000, or do you think, you know, as sellers are kind of watching what's happening with prices, what's happening with demand, do you think people are going to be rushing to list, or do you think people are going to be holding out and protecting the value?
If I may add to David's question, also the fact that rental market has been affected. So a lot of people that were investors, very eager investors, are kind of backing out a little bit just because of the fear of owning these properties, which they may or may not be able to rent.
I will answer David's question by saying this. On February 8th, you're going to see evidence that is going to answer your question. I'm not going to speculate. We went out to the consumers and asked about sentiment. Sentiment is very, very important. You're going to get a very well-researched and informed opinion by our folks, including Ipsos, as to where we think the market is heading. We have, it's too early to really say anything anyway in terms of the market, but I can tell you this, the numbers right now are very, very interesting. The market is not slowing down.
No.
At least, and I know it's early.
No,
it's early in the go, but we are significantly over last year, same time. So that makes me want to say, hey, you know, hold on. But I'm reluctant, because is there going to be some sort of a consumer hiatus? Is this lockdown going to create that slowdown because people are still out? Do we know if people are going to list their properties? What does that really mean? And which area is that going to happen in? The city? Is it the 905? Are people now, to your point, David, are they going to be tired of shoveling every day? You know, is that going to make them rethink? And what does that do to our markets in Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington? What's going to happen? So I don't want to guess. I can tell you that I have a lot of questions right now, but I'm a little concerned about what I'm hearing. I heard that they said no to a curfew today, right?
Really?
Yeah, that was put out by 680 News this morning.
I heard that they're going to do, they've made some changes to how certain sectors can operate. But my problem is, my question to the person who let me know about this, who's tied very closely, I said, and what are you doing about enforcement? And the answer I got back was nothing. We never got there. And I thought to myself, you see, there's the problem. And I actually typed in, therein lies the challenge. You cannot just lecture people here. This government has to stop lecturing. They have to act. And if they don't do it right, I'm telling you, this is going to go on for a while, because everybody seems to be hanging their hat on the vaccine. And yet our government opted out of 16 million, their option of 16 million doses for Moderna. What the heck does that mean? That's insane. So where are we? I get the sense, and I don't want to be a little any crazier than I already am, but let's ask ourselves this question. If this is a prolonged shutdown, is it going to have an effect? And what is that effect going to be? But if we look in the fundamentals, interest rates are low. The majority of people who are in the higher salary sectors, they're still making money. The ones that own homes seem to all still be working, whether it's at home or whatever. So that sector is still there. Immigration and migration will continue, as other areas will need to move into an area where there's an economic opportunity. So if we look at fundamentals, money's cheap. Now what? Yeah, I mean, all my instincts are saying it's going to continue at this pace. But the roll of the dice, in my opinion, is what's going to happen with this pandemic short term. And if they don't get a hold of it, to me, it's like a bucking bull. Okay? It's really hard to hang on to that. It's really hard to hang on to it. And you can't just tell the bull to stop bucking. You got to do something. So, and we know that there are people that are very militant. And if we look at the equities market in the United States and in Canada, the market's climbing. So very easy question, David. Complicated answers. Took me, 20 minutes to say, I don't know, I'm not telling you.
Well, I mean, I think we're in uncharted territory. I don't think anybody has the answer. But like I said, I think when you look at the fundamentals, I think the fundamentals are pretty clear, right? Except it's, the one thing that is hard to measure is consumer behavior and confidence. Right? What's consumer confidence like that? And I think, going back to our initial discussion, when I first started talking to Lisa and the whole real estate and the global scale and our organized real estate, I think consumer confidence in Canadian real estate has never been higher.
That's a really good point. And I guess the question I would ask, which, is rhetorical, but how many buyers are out there? Tons of buyers, no listings, relatively speaking. Now, listings are actually outstripping sales. Right now, I think the last time I looked, it was about, so if there was, let's say 1,000 sales, there's 1,600 listings. So we're seeing that the months of inventory is sort of keeping up. But boy, if listings dry up, all those buyers, that's just pressure. That's not necessarily an active market. That's just pressure. We need inventory. If we had inventory, I think that this would be a very active marketplace for a long, long time. In 2010, I read an article about what they referred to as the economic supercycle, which is a 50-year cycle. And that means there's going to be very small downturns. It's a straight line, right? With little blips, right? Due to dramatic things. What could be more dramatic than this pandemic? Right? So it's hard to really put my mind to it. And as I've said many times, and Lisa emphasizes, it's evidence-based. We need to see the evidence. We need to look at what can we measure? How can we tell? And just look at our data a little differently. And maybe we get some insight, but you're right. Consumer behavior is the area that we didn't expect. Did anybody expect this? I don't think so. Nobody did. So,
and I think a lot of it can also be traced back to, you know, how many people have made money investing in Canadian real estate, right? Look how cool the trend of being an entrepreneur is, right? Everybody wants to become a real estate investor. Everybody is looking for investment property. Everybody wants to become a landlord, right? And that's really taking the Canadian homeowner dream to the next level. Right?
second homes, yeah.
Here
Well,
at the brokerage, we actually ran a 12-week, very intensive investment seminar of how to bridge that knowledge gap and how to work more with investors in the summertime. We had 57 realtors attend the course. We actually did a little internal accreditation as well for everybody that participated. And our realtors have been really running with the whole concept and notion of working more with investors, and it's taking on a whole different meaning. You know, it's really cool to see.
Well, I know Lisa mentioned this before, but our relationships with other U.S. and other nations now, you can anticipate at Realtor Quest, if all things work out in November, we will have a Realtor Quest, and Florida was committed to bringing up 300 people last May. We're going to hold a session that will be an information session that will give our members the information they need in order to service their clients that want to buy properties in Florida. And that would include like legal advice, tax information, all the things that our guys would need, because we've got like somewhere in the order of 500,000 people that go down there during the course of the year or own property. The numbers are staggering. I actually have it on my desk right now, that how much we actually do in terms of, it's in the billions of dollars. And I think that applies to second homes. There are tax laws. People believe that owning a second home, you know, you have it's a tax problem. Well, not necessarily, as you know. So there are so many different things that we're looking at. That's a great question, a great insight, David.
Yeah, and that has to be a two-way relationship, right? Like, as much as, you know, Canadians are investing in other markets, the whole global outreach program that Lisa was talking to me about, like, the other reason I'm getting really excited about this is because I think when other people start to see the level of organized real estate that we have in Canada, that we enjoy in Canada, I think that's going to open up the floodgates for even more investment, international investment into our local real estate economy. You know, think about Europe, or you mentioned India, you mentioned France, you mentioned the United Emirates. You know, there's a lot of money there, and there's a lot of political instability. Look at Brexit, look at some of the other things happening, right? If we show them our level of organization for real estate in Canada, I think that's going to be even more of an argument to put even more investment dollars here into our local real estate market.
Yeah, we hear some of the, we ask the questions, what is it that attracts here? There are many data points, but some of the real highlights are, well, the city's cosmopolitan. You know, you're close enough to Toronto, and it's an exciting city. It's clean. I know crime is starting to become an issue for us, but it's a lot less than other major centers. We're the fourth largest city in North America now, just behind. So there's the three are Mexico, LA, and New York, and then we're fourth. And I had a Chicago now, and but we're also talking about healthcare, education, opportunities, lifestyle. You know, the Greater Golden Horseshoe is actually a jewel, and we keep telling people. In fact, since 2015, and I've been before many different premiers' offices and you know, MLAs and MPPs, and I try to convince them that if we do it now, if you're going to buy land and you're going to build highways, what's it going to cost? Well, let me put it to you this way: what do you think it's going to cost to renovate the DVP? How much do you think it'll cost to renovate the DVP?
$2 billion.
Huh?
2 billion.
Oh God, no, way more. How much do you think it's going to cost in 5 years? A lot more than that, right? No matter what number we put on it, it's going to be exponentially more expensive. If you're going to build something or an extra highway or whatever it is that you're going to do, what are the costs today? What are the costs going to be in 5 years? When I flew over 2 years ago, flying into Denver, we were flying over this highway, and I noticed, I didn't know it was a highway. I just didn't know what the structures were, and I realized that those were the interchanges. They built the interchanges first in the middle of what I thought was a desert, because there were no towns, there were no roads, but they built these interchanges first. And I thought, these guys are planning for 20 years in advance.
Oh yeah.
We need to be doing it, right? When I sit with at MTO meetings about transit, I tell you what's shocking to me. They're all talking about 2040, 2045. And I say to them, guys, you got to be thinking about 2022. You know, you got to be thinking about it now, because look at all the homes they're building. Like I live in Oakville. Every piece of property north of Dundas, if you know Oakville at all, has already been designated. How much are they building? Where are we going to put those cars, David? Where are we putting them? What's it going to be like to drive? I know they're building that little spike just south of the 407, but that, I don't know what that is. You know, they want to build the 413. The 413 will be an amazing road for us, especially out here. But
John,
now they're still having environmental issues.
John, when I moved to Oakville in 1999, from the 403 on Dundas all the way to Trafalgar, there was one traffic light.
Exactly.
And from the house I lived on Ravine View Way, which was probably 3 blocks south of Dundas, just west of Trafalgar Road, you could see cows grazing on the other side of Dundas.
You're right. 100%.
Right?
Also, that was Brampton. That was so many cities in Ontario was very similar to that exactly what you explained. By the way, John, I looked it up. It was $6.5 billion that Canadians put into the US. Into tourism and everything, all that aspect.
In Florida.
Yeah.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited, guys. And John, like even if I go on a more basic level and look at let's talk about clean water. Let's talk about clean air, right? I mean, things that we take for granted because we've always had it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, and I think the other thing we take for granted is I think a lot of realtors take TREB for granted, right? Because we all kind of, I've been a realtor for 16 years. You guys were there when I got my real estate license. It was organized, it was there. But I really wanted to thank you guys for everything you do, for the level of organization you guys bring to real estate, for protecting our data, and giving us access and all your programs and services, your government relations, the market reports. It's great. And I'm very, very proud to be a member of such an organization. So thank you. And, I don't want to take you guys for granted. I don't want our members to take you guys for granted. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick shout out.
That is so sweet. Well, you need one of these.
I do. I know. At least I was very jealous the whole time you had that with you.
And it's so amazing that they came on board for a brokerage I mean, this is really amazing. It reflects so nicely on you because it shows how much time you give to individual brokerages like ours. You know,
Man, you
That's
guys are gonna
amazing.
make us all tear up. We love you, but
It was your tamarind.
Back again, of course.
but we want you to have tremendous success, not only in 2021 but in your career. So we, on behalf of John and myself, and I know I'm gonna let John say some words too, but I wish you guys tremendous success and health. So you're no good without your health. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves, your families, your loved ones, and of course your clients. And of course, if there's anything that I or John or TREB can do to support you, just know that we're here.
Thank you, Lisa.
Nothing more to be said. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa, for everything as well. And I want you all to understand how hard Lisa has worked since she took over. Very selfless. And I think we need to all support her as much as we possibly can. She's done a phenomenal job. So thank you again, David, and nice to see everybody here. And looking forward to the next time.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Perfect. We look forward to that training on collaborate.
He's already got it in the works.
Wonderful. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.